write my story. I'm beyond the archetype. I won't just conform, no matter how you shake my core. 'Cause my roots, they run deep. Oh, you have so little faith. Don't doubt it, don't doubt it. Victory is in my veins. I know it, and I will not negotiate. I'll fight it, I will transform. When the fire's at my feet again.
Well, hello there. Good evening and welcome. This is Strong and Sassy here on your super hits radio, Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Animwaa Anim Addo. It's been a minute, 2 weeks actually, but thank you so much for staying tuned in, and it's really good to be back. I wish we were doing something more exciting tonight, something that will make us laugh and fill us with excitement. But some days are set aside for some things that we must talk about, no matter how much we don't want to. Tonight, we're talking about suffering in silence. Over the past few weeks, we have heard horrid stories of abuse, the kind of abuse that we think that has gone away. It's a kind of story that maybe you expect to have heard 30, 40 years ago. You would think that with all of the education and the law and so much progress that has been made, we won't hear these kind of stories. And then sometimes a story comes out and it just takes your breath away because of the sheer wickedness and cruelty that people are able to inflict on other people, especially domestically. So if you've been following the news, then you know the story of the woman who was being abused in her marriage with the children, and it's really horrid. I'm sure you've heard about it, and I don't really want to go over it. But listening to it, one question kept on coming back from me, and it's why do women stay in abusive relationships? Because so many times you'll hear that it's not like the abuse started yesterday and the woman left. You'll hear that it started many years ago. It's gone on and on and on. and you'll ask, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you just leave? And so tonight we will explore other things, but we'll stay a little bit on that, just so that we can be aware, because it's easy to stand on the outside and judge someone for not leaving, but you really don't know until you are in their shoes. So joining me tonight to have this conversation is Serwaah Sarfo Mensah. She's a lawyer and entrepreneur. Hi, Serwaah.
Hello, Animwaa.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And then, of course, Dr. Dwamena-Aboagye, the Executive Director of the ARC Foundation here in Ghana. I'm sure you know about the ARC Foundation. It's one of the first and the most stable and the longest serving foundations for women who are being abused. I know that they have a shelter as well. So when Doc comes on, we'll let her talk about that as well, because we also, as much as we want to have the conversation, we also want to be proactive. So we want to be able to help and give back, so that it's not just a pie in the sky conversation. And then I would say, like, our in-house psychologist, because Dr. Evelyn Owusu Roberts is always, here with us when we're having these conversations. Both doctors will be joining us by Zoom, but Serwaah is here with me in the studio. So last week, we did a playback of a show where we had some women who had been abused, and you guys sent in your questions and stuff, so we're going to answer that. But before we get into all of it, our phone lines, our text lines are open: 055-1111-997, 055-1111-997. So send me your questions. We're interactive. We'll open the phone lines at some point, so that if you want to call in, if you're a woman who is in an abusive relationship and you're still in it and you'd like to share your story with us, if you just want to reach out for help, we would love to talk to you. So we'll do that towards the end of the show. But our WhatsApp lines are open. We're live on Facebook as well, so you can watch on there. Once again, you're welcome. This is Joy 99.7 FM. If you're just tuning in, this is Strong and Sassy, and my name is Animwaa. So let me start with you, Serwaah. When you heard the story, how did you feel?
Well, it was like, okay, so it's one of those things. It's one of those situations, or one of those stories, because it's something I deal with. It's like an every week, every day case I deal with. I deal with, I do criminal law, I practice criminal law, and so I handle cases like this. And it's not easy for the victims. And I always tell myself, when are we going to move from I'm staying silent to I'm saving myself? Because every day, every year, it happens. You see, so for example, this lady is lucky she came out alive. We have circumstances where some people die out of it. Some people lose their mental health out of it, so they go mad. What are we doing about it?
Yeah.
So that was what I told myself. Can we? What can we do to help? So it doesn't affect only women.
Yes,
So
of course.
her case is just that it happened to her, but men too. So what are we doing to help ourselves? It can happen to me, can happen to everyone. So what am I doing to help the other people? What am I doing to reduce the cases that come to me?
Yeah.
When are we going to learn? But you see, those of us giving the help, those of us rendering the help, we can only help to an extent. Most of the work depends on they themselves, the victims.
Yeah.
They need to help themselves. We can advise, we can help. Like the Art Foundation, they provide shelter. FIDA, they help in these cases. Doves to domestic violence and support units, they help in these cases. But if we, the lawyers who are into cases like this, if you come and we help you and you don't help yourself, you go back to it, we advise you, and you do not listen, where are we going?
Yeah. I mean, that's putting a lot of the responsibility on the victim, who is already burdened and already broken. Yes. I mean, but then again, you can't really go into somebody's into somebody's home and pull them out.
Exactly.
So you have to. Let me say hello to both Dr. Roberts and Dr. Dwamena-Aboagye, who are joining us on Zoom. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, hi. Hello there. It's always good to have you. Unfortunately, under these circumstances, let me start with you. I'm tempted to call you Auntie Angela. You know, I always do that because
Do that, please. It's fine. Even take
thank
off the ante if you like.
thank you. Thank you for that. So, we've had this conversation, I think maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 years running,
Mhm,
coming back to talking about domestic violence. And I'm sure it's even
mhm,
longer for you because this is pretty much your life's work. Is it
mhm.
getting better, or are we just where we've always been?
Well, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell because just maybe 3, 4 years ago, the data that we had suggested that 1 out of every 3 of 20 or 28% to 30% of adult women in Ghana have suffered some form of physical or sexual abuse or both from an intimate partner.
Hmm.
Very recently, I chanced on statistics that says it's 41%. And I need to go back again and really look at the sources of that. But that's very as recent as 3 days ago. And as the first speaker said, we also have men and boys who go through it, even though this kind of violence has a feminine face. And it has a feminine face
Yeah.
because of the dynamics of power that exists between men and women. Okay, so it's not about equalizing, it's not equal, but then men and boys also suffer it. And sometimes you see data that suggests 10% in Ghana or 14%, whatever it is, it's too high for
Hmm.
comfort.
Hmm.
So we don't know whether it's getting better. This is an area of life that is severely underreported for several reasons. Okay, mistrust of institutions, even the wherewithal to get to an institution. If you are in a peri-urban or a rural area, the pressure that comes from society when you try to even do anything about it, the kind of norms that we have in our minds, okay, that shape relationships and so on. These are all things that put people under pressure not to report or even to withdraw when they report and so on. So it's very hard to know whether we are doing better or we've gone back. But in terms of institutional response, I think that we've gone backwards.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one to hear. Why do you think it is? Are we losing sensitivity to the whole situation?
I think so. This is the kind of area of work that people have to be constantly trained and retrained, sensitized, and you keep on with the sensitization, because if you don't, they'll become desensitized.
Hmm.
It's so harrowing that at a point you may even become desensitized. So you have to be pinched, to wake up to your duty once again, that you are not looking at a mere number, a mere statistic. You are looking at a real life human being who probably doesn't know what to do at the time you're seeing them. So it's very important for us to keep up the work, and most of that work has slipped off. It's
Right.
not, I keep saying, this is not work that one NGO can do, or even 10 NGOs or something. This is state responsibility. The rest of us can plug in, okay, whether as traditional authorities, religious authorities, communities, NGOs, CSOs, whatever, um, churches, and so on. But it's really state responsibility, because they have to put the resources and the capacity behind the institutions so they can work, so they can keep sensitizing, so they can keep providing services in
Hmm.
a sensitive manner,
Hmm.
so they can go after the perpetrators and make sure they are accountable. Even if you can't, prosecute them to high heavens, you must hold them accountable one way
Yeah.
or the other. And so these are all, aspects of working that help, but we really slacked on all fronts.
Right. Doc, you talked about the power dynamic between men and women, and when you look at the current ecosystem, you feel like women are doing much better economically. There are lots
Mhm.
of things that have opened up for women, that we're able to do now that perhaps we're not doing many years ago.
Yes.
Why is our socio-economic freedom not reflecting in the way that we are treated in our homes and in our marriages, when it comes to abuse? Because a lot of abuse is really about power.
It is basically, it's about power and control. It's about one person thinking that they have the power that they derive, whether from their own religious beliefs or cultural beliefs or what society has um, given to them, to exact a certain kind of treatment or punishment on another person that they have power over, and to control their behavior and let them live in fear. Basically, this is what gender-based violence or domestic violence is about. Okay, it's not a common household argument, and that's another conversation, because people often lose it there. They think these are two people fighting. No, when it comes to domestic violence especially, it is about one person who is in a dominating position, the other person almost almost helpless. They'll try to fight back and everything, but they don't have the kind of clout and power to kind of challenge the system and the person in that sense. And oftentimes they really don't know what to do. So back to your question very quickly. You see, being educated and being economically empowered helps you, one, with information, and the economic empowerment gives you more options. It doesn't necessarily mean you are empowered. Empowerment comes from within, and it also may come from outside when you're able to use knowledge, resources, and so on, and you're able to act. Now, my experience in this area, and I've said this several times, I'm sure I've even said it to you, that the more socioeconomically empowered a woman is in our cultural circumstances and context, and even educated, the less likely they want to talk about this, break the silence. The less likely, because the shame, the embarrassment, the social circles they are in, and the fact that telling people about what they are going through at home can be very, very embarrassing for them. It's just amazing. So there's something that's needed more. An empowered woman is somebody who really knows where to draw the boundaries and is able to exercise that power, okay, in a relationship that allows that to happen. But irrespective of your socioeconomic background and so on, violence, this kind of violence, knows no bounds. In fact, in my experience, the lesser educated women, the lesser empowered women sometimes are able to stand up against these kinds of abuses better than those who are in that class that you referred to.
Doc, so before I move on from you, are there always, in your experience, are there always red flags in the beginning?
Not always,
Okay.
but many times. Not always, because people are good at hiding their behavior. Okay, when you're courting and things like that, people can, they don't show who they truly are sometimes. And also the fact that people's eyes are covered with love, whatever that means for them. Okay. So I'm in love. I don't see, or I'm refusing to see that if this person keeps scrolling up and down my phone asking me, where did I go, who have you been with, why did you talk to this person, why did you sit in this person's car, but I interpret it as a sign of love, missing the fact that this is overly possessive and overly jealous, and that's a red flag. Many times I found, and very sadly so, even among students at the tertiary level, girls, women, okay, with all the knowledge and so on, that's what they get caught in. They don't see the red flags, or they refuse to see, because there's a certain push to get into relationships, wanting to get married or improve their socioeconomic circumstances, which is also the other thing. Lots of young women especially are in relationships with older men who treat them like nothing, just because they don't have the wherewithal, to be able to meet their school needs and, get a wig and some of the nice things that young women wear and so on. So they would even refuse to see the red flags just so that they can compensate with whatever this person
It's
is giving to
bringing
them
them. Yeah.
emotionally and economically.
Right. Yeah, I totally get that. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to go to Dr. Owusu Roberts in a second, but before that, Serwaah, let me just come to you. I mean, first of all, you are holding plenty papers, so me, I'm like challenged. There's a lecture waiting to happen. But honestly, I'm curious though. What papers are you holding?
Oh, it's just research. You know, lawyers. Auntie is a lawyer. I'm sure she also has. You see, she was mentioning some research, the data and everything. We always go to war prepared.
All right.
You can't go
So
to
the plenty
war
papers
unprepared.
is your.
Oh, it could just be nothing. It's just
Wow,
to
I
scare
see.
the enemy so that
I
they don't.
see.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. A few years ago, Serwaah, we were having the same conversation, and this is not me coming for any state agency, but
Okay.
I remember that in that particular report, a lady had said that she had gone to Dovsu or something, and she had gone to report, that she was being abused or something like that. And somebody there, not a high ranking official, but just generally somebody who may or may not work there but was on the premises at that time, allegedly responded to her complaints with, she came and said, oh, my husband has beaten me, da 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 da. And then the person was like, yeah, but what did you do?
Okay.
I remember very well that we did it on our show, and I think we even had Doves to respond. But in your practice and in your work, do you find that the victims are still blamed somehow because of our culture and because we are we're very patriarchal, whatever the word is, society? So victim blaming and victim shaming is a thing because Doc talked about it. You also talked about it, the fact that okay, it's on the victims and all of that. But if your husband is beating you and you find the courage and the strength to come out, and the first question you ask is, "Where are they? What did you do? Are you provoking him?" Or if and I can imagine maybe for somebody, I mean, for example, for somebody like me, if I ever came out and I said, oh, I'm married and my husband is beating me or something, the first response would be, I said, okay, so like you talk too much, or you're too this, or you're too that. It's almost like with rape.
Yes.
You know how when somebody's raped, people ask, what was she wearing? What was she doing there? The victim blaming and the victim shaming.
Yeah.
Do you find that is still happening? Because I think it's definitely one of the reasons why people find it difficult to come out and talk about it.
Yes, it's still there. It's happening. I've had cases. So let me take you to my practical journey. One midnight, I got a
Ish.
call
Okay.
from a lady. She hadn't become my client yet,
Okay.
but a friend had given my number to her.
To her.
And she was broken and crying over the phone. And what she said was that her husband had beaten her around that time, like few minutes before she called. She ran to a nearby police station. They have a DOFC unit in there. When she got there, so there were women. What they asked her was, what did you do? Same thing as she said. So she narrated the story to them. What they told her was that, go back at that hour. Go back home and stay with your husband. I mean, how?
Yeah.
Something had happened to her. You could see bruises. You could see blood oozing out of some part of her body. She comes running to you at that ungodly hour.
Yeah.
Tells you that the person who had inflicted that on her, she should go back and make up with her husband. Then what are we doing to help the victims? And that is why many of these victims, they stay back. You see, the current story, the recent story that has been going on in the media, she mentioned it, that when it started, she went to, I think, 2 or so nearby police stations to report, and they sent her back to her husband. So her final option was to leave, to run away, and she couldn't run with the children, so she left the children. And because she couldn't go with the children, the husband used that to lure her back. And it was, I say it was a godly intervention. She would have been dead by now if there wasn't anyone to help her. So you see, it's been a problem. I've been frustrated so many times with these issues. In fact, I have directly face that. So definitely I would have a client, I would visit there's police stations with them, and you see the feedback from our people, we all work hand in hand, has been somewhat very low.
Yeah, it's bad.
So it saddened me. So it got to a time I was so frustrated to a point where I was like, really, you can't do it yourself. You can't push yourself. So we are all working in it together, right? We are not enemies. These people need help. We the lawyers can, and then the other foundations and media people, stakeholders, we can help to an extent. But if the other people who can help pull this down, help punish the offenders, help bring protection to the victims, should I use the word, maybe let me borrow it, neglecting, refusing to do what they're supposed to do to protect the victims, where are we going as a country? So it's been something that has been going on, it's a discussion we've been having. So not only me, together with some other colleagues who have been facing these issues, to, come on board and help. I don't know how. Is it to strengthen the law? But the law is there.
Yeah, the law is
But
there.
you see, it's just in paper. If we don't help, if we don't
we don't
implement
practicalize it, yeah.
practical, how do we get there? And those who are supposed to help us do that are refusing. Then what can we do? So it's something we've been trying to come up with. We've been trying to come up with a solution to help with that. It's sad, but I think we'll get there. We'll get there someday.
Wow, okay. Auntie Angie, so just in response to what Serwaah said, about that first response,
Yes.
because I think we've also heard stories of women who went to the police station, went to Dovsu, and got that immediate support, and you find that their stories are very, very different, because that's immediate point of vulnerability where you find the strength, you reach out and you get the support, and somebody who believes you, and that kind of changes the trajectory of how you're able to cope with the whole thing. But so why? Like, what is the problem? Like, I know you can't speak for the police stations and for Dovsu, but like, what if somebody comes there and say, I said that my husband has beaten me. I have run away from my house at midnight. You are supposed to help me. That is what you are being paid for. They are telling me that I should go home and go and make up in my house. Like, why? What demonic entity is forcing you to behave like that?
That's a good question, and I like my lawyer counsel, right?
Yes.
Yes,
With
Is that
all the
my
research
is that
papers.
counsel? I'm trying to remember your name.
Serwaah.
Oh, Serwaah. Serwaah is saying this is something we're facing all the time. So let me just describe what we also know.
Okay.
You have police who have been trained, okay, and who by themselves have a heart for the work.
Okay.
If you are fortunate to meet one such person in the system, if you're going to report a case like that, the person will try to use whatever means they have and the other means or resources that are in the community to support you. So it depends on who you would meet when you go and report your case.
Okay.
But there are some places that are simply notorious, and some police officers that are simply notorious for not providing the kind of response that they know they have to provide by law.
Wow.
By
Okay.
law. So it's become a very difficult thing because it looks as though there are individual police officers who act with this kind of impunity by not trying to help, bringing up all those, customary and cultural reasons why you should go back and all of that. Sometimes they would say, go and call your husband, we want to do counseling, things like that. Even though they know that assuming they even wanted to do counseling, they must refer either to the social services or to the police clinical psychologists who are also available, even though it's a limited resource there. So there is that bad part that is becoming more systemic. That's why I said that we are falling back in terms of institutional response, because you don't meet enough of the good guys. You meet more of this kind of response that says you know, um, what did you do? Or if it's not what did you do, um, go call your husband so we counsel you. Or, go back and make up if you do this and that, that shouldn't happen to you. Or if you're refusing, and because we handle some of these cases, a few of them would try to stand their ground and they'll say, we'll charge both of you. We'll charge both of you because when he beat you, you threw something at him, or you broke his a glass, his car window or something. So we are going to charge both of you,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's just a strategy to frustrate you because you are trying to report a case and to make the police do what they are supposed to do. So, without any I can say that they're very, very, very good officers, trained, sensitive, and if you find them. The other thing has to do with our policy in terms of policing in this sector. Sometimes these police officers are trained, okay, whether from the training school or even when they come, there are these multilaterals who sometimes provide resources for training and so on. After they're trained and posted to DOFSU, after a while, they're taken off someplace, okay, maybe to MTTU or to regional division or to
Right.
something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you build a network with people whom you know can handle a case you are referring to. The next time you go, they are no longer there.
Right.
And that transfer policy is also really
A problem.
disturbing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that also becomes a policy issue. It's a system thing.
Yes.
And then, of course, yes, sometimes the police are simply frustrated. Okay, frustrated by the fact that they don't have a vehicle to go and make an arrest if they have to. Sometimes, trying to find you a place to stay, even while you're waiting for it. Assuming you went to Fencheko to report a case, which shelter are you going to in Fencheko?
Yeah.
Okay, something like that. So there are real challenges in the system. But the thing is, if we manage to find ways of working together, okay, at different levels, you would find that your frustration can be lowered. Why have I stayed in this job for the last almost 30 years? It's because I've learned to work together with others who would provide what we can't or try to do so. Okay, so that between us we share not only the frustrations but the wins. Okay, so clinical psychologists who can help with our clients, doctors who won't charge us the medical fee for filing a form, sometimes lawyers who may have to represent a client because they need a protection order, which is also another big thing that's in our law, but it's not happening because it's so expensive to do. So that's how we've managed to work. Okay, and even you have some judges who would, because they are sensitive to the issues, they are trained, they're able to refer clients or victims from the courts to us for shelter.
Right.
Okay, but another judge who doesn't have that sensitivity can even ask the victim to face their perpetrator in court because they just don't have. So if we don't build systems of capacity, across board and try to work on the things that are really frustrating victims and even officers who want to work well, we will keep getting this kind of impunity from our institutions,
Yeah.
apart from impunity from the perpetrators. And one thing I want to say also is this thing about the education bit. Look, a society that gets sensitized is able to say something when they see something, or even do something when they see something, okay? Because there's some level of sensitivity. But if we don't keep educating society about the dynamics of this kind of violence, it's normal for many people. I mean, this lady who filmed, that's very nice. Maybe in the 90s, she may not even have bothered. She would have said, oh, Mr. Mensah, he's always beating his wife. That was the trend we used to have. People keep doing this because they think it's normal. Okay, but it becomes a bit abnormal though when a woman beats a man. So that's, some of the gender differences. Yeah. Okay. So we've lost on many of these fronts. There isn't enough sensitization going on. People still think they can do what they like. Sometimes even when the victim moves to an institution, the perpetrator will say, you will go and come back and meet me here. I know they won't do nothing, and they won't do nothing. And invariably they are right.
Wow.
And so it empowers them the more
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
that.
I so I'm gonna ask a question. I mean, both Doc and Serwaah, and this is not to implicate you and it's definitely not for the headlines. And I hope that you would know that. But I'm listening to all of this and my heart hurts because the question I'm asking is it because this is a women's issue? Is this why after so many years it's like nothing, like you said, it's like nothing really substantive is being, because I feel like if it was something that we were passionate about as a people, as a country, if police officers know that they will be sanctioned for certain, you can have your own personal beliefs. If you want to beat your wife at home, that's your business. But once you're wearing the uniform and I come to you, you have to put your personal beliefs aside. If they knew they would be sanctioned, if our president cared, if our parliament cared, if policymakers thought it was important, if for a moment we said these are our mothers, these are our sisters, these are our wives, we're going to stand with them so that these things don't, like, would it make a difference? Is it just because we don't care? Because it really sounds like, do you know what, it just sounds like we don't care. Like those who should care because they have the power don't.
Who's going first?
I think Serwaah wants to go first.
Oh, no, Auntie Angela, you go first. And I'll
Okay,
come
well, so that's blunt, but I think it's true. A state prioritizes what it thinks are its priorities, okay? And sometimes it takes a certain kind of sensitivity to prioritize some of these issues. Now, for example, one of the things that I've been quote unquote annoyed about is that Ghana often touts itself as doing very well on social protection issues, but it's usually around school feeding, LEAP, NHIA,
Yeah.
capitation grants.
Yeah.
And it's like that's about all that we do when it comes to social protection, and we're very proud of it. So time after time, you get reports, even the president's SONA, when he talks about social protection, it's
That's what
about
he's
these
talking
areas.
about, yeah.
That's it. Exactly. You would find issues of children's protection, disability protection, women, they're out. Affirmative action has become affirmative action because there's a political part of it,
Yes,
where we're
of
talking about
course, yeah.
representation.
Yeah.
So it's something for people, and some are even threatened that women will come and take their seats, so it becomes something.
Yes.
But domestic violence, a lot of people, is somebody else's business. They only care if it happens to their sister or their mother or something. Even that, they would still come with their cultural cap on, okay? That let's try and settle this and all of that. So yes, I think to some extent it's because it's not on the front burner for the state, but the state doesn't understand the huge losses that it makes from the costs. I wish you would get the ISA report on the cost of violence against women and girls. That was published in 2018, and I'm sure it's on the net.
Right.
And just they manage to cost
Quantify and
the
cost, okay.
losses to the state. It's running in millions of dollars every year. Okay, so it's not time lost, treatment, and all of that. It's huge, because count 1 out of every 3, and that's
It's a
not
lot.
surprising, because that's the statistic across most of Africa and the developing world.
Wow.
In the developed world, it's 1 out of 4. So we know this is a global problem. Okay, in the Nordic countries that have better social systems, it's 1 out of 5. So it still happens, but at least they know what to do when it happens.
Yeah.
That's the difference between them and us.
Wow, that's some heavy stuff. Serwaah, what do you think?
Yes, Auntie Angie has said it all, but to add to what Auntie Angie has said, I think I always tackle problems from the root. I see this as a cultural issue. Why do I see this as a cultural issue?
Yes, why do you see this as a cultural
Because
issue?
you see, it's been very difficult to deal with. Why? Because we believe in, and Auntie Angie has spoken about it. I've also said some parts about it, about the stigma when it happens. Okay, you have to, you are the, it looks like, as for a when you're a woman, you don't have much power. You have to subject all control to the man. Everything, you speak a lot. You did this, you did that. So just go and firm up with your husband or whoever is in authority. You see, the society believes that, one, so if there's an intimate relationship, the man is the head of the family, right? Whatever the man says is right. You the woman, you really don't have a say. I know we've grown as a country, but that issue of the man is the head of the family, and we agree totally that you are the head of the family. But the fact that you are the head of the family does not mean beat me, abuse me. That I can't, when there's something going on, I can't speak. Or everything I do, you have to subject me. It's not, so abuse is not only beating, but emotional as well.
Of course, psychological and mental and all of that.
Exactly. Everything I do, you have to subject me to some form of abuse. You see, if we move from that bit where this is our cultural perception, or bad days, permits me to go into or borrow my local dialect. Or bad day, o kwa wari mwa, yedi ma ukunu, okasakra miawano. In fact, when you're a child, I was taught growing up that when you're a child and someone even a little bit older than you is talking, don't talk, keep quiet. If they beat you, shut up, don't talk. They are trying to train you. Was that, or is that form of a training or abuse? So that is what we've grown up with. That is the mentality we have. And those of us who are supposed to help us, I believe, find it difficult to in their line of work to separate traditional or cultural mentality from what is right, what the law says, what they have to do. So that is why we find when there's an issue and you run to, so for example, the police station, what they will ask you first is, what did you do? Did you in fact, they will even tell you before you speak that you've provoked him. That is why he's doing that. He did that to you.
Yeah.
So if they are able to separate their and its capacity, if they are able to separate their cultural perception, their traditional perception from their line of work. So for example, we are lawyers, but in our line of work, we try to separate
your opinions from the law.
Yeah. What is happening in our home from the law. When we come home, we don't also, some of us, I'm not sure it's all
bring
of
the
us.
law to the house.
Exactly. So in our work, I believe if we are able to separate the cultural traditional perception, that's that from what is supposed to be done. So in your line of work, you know that you are supposed to, you have rules and regulations you have to go by. You have laws, legislations that you have to go by. If you use that and you don't let the traditional or cultural perception interfere in that, I believe it's a very turning point for us.
Yeah, it is. If you just tuned in, this is Strong and Sassy, your superstation Joy 99.7 FM. It's Wednesday, 26th November 2025, and we're talking about how women are still beaten, how they're having pepper shoved into their private parts, and how they're then asked, what do you do? Like I said, it's November 2025. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll conclude on our conversation for tonight. Don't go anywhere.
Imagine a place where every child's laughter becomes a song.
A place where we can learn from animals, play, and just be happy with mommy and daddy.
A place where hearts grow together. That place is Safari Eco Park. Here, amusement is the joy that unites us all.
Mommy, I can see the emus all the way up here on the canopy wall.
Careful, dear. There is more fun to be had.
This zebra is my new friend. Her name is Stripey, and the wildebeest is Sandy.
Hi, Stripey and Sandy.
With so much amusement like target and obstacle games, ant caves, fantasy rides, and a vast range of wildlife.
What is this place?
This is an aviary, home to over 400 of the most vibrant birds in the world. The biggest aviary in West Africa.
Wow, the biggest?
Yes, and guess what? Open your palm.
Daddy, look, they're eating from my palm.
That's amazing.
I want to stay at Safari Eco Park. I don't want to go back to Ghana.
But honey, Safari Eco Park is in Ghana.
What?
How much did all of this cost, honey?
350 Ghana cedis for you and I, 250 for teenagers, 150 for kids, and absolutely free for children under 6.
We should have brought the kids here sooner.
I know.
Safari Eco Park is only 1 hour drive from Accra. It's unforgettable.
FPAC is effective for headaches and relieves the symptoms of flu, colds, and catarrh. FPAC blows away the pain associated with sore throats. During and after a hard day's work, FPAC relieves you of body pains. After the day's sports workout, FPAC helps the body to control the aching muscles. FPAC is effective against feverishness. FPAC reduces body temperature associated with malaria and other fevers. FPAC is effective against rheumatic pains. You can find FPAC in all pharmacy and chemical select shops throughout the country. FPAC is not recommended for children less than 16 years of age, ulcer and asthmatic patients, pregnant and lactating mothers. If symptoms persist for more than 2 days, consult your doctor. FPAC blows your pain away.
FPAC Junior follows in the tradition of FPAC tablets, a trusted friend to relieve your child of pain associated with teething, catarrh, cold, and fever. The good that FPAC does for you, FPAC Junior does for your child. FPAC Junior is for children between 6 months and 12 years. FPAC Junior blows your child's pain away.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is Strong and Sassy here on Joy 99.7 FM. And tonight we're talking about suffering in silence, domestic abuse, really. We've had Serwaah Sarfo Mensah, she's a lawyer and entrepreneur, Dr. Dwamena-Aboagye, who is the Executive Director of the ARC Foundation in Ghana. We also had Dr. Evelyn Owusu Roberts, so we're going to try and do the emotional side of this, but we've decided to just dedicate like next week to talk about the emotional side because we don't want to water it down, and it's such a big part of this conversation. So we're going to finish with Serwaah and Doc, and then we'll continue next week. So Serwaah, before I come to you for your final thoughts, Doc, I just wanted to take a minute to ask you, how is the ARC Foundation doing? And since the last time we spoke, are you getting the support that you need, and then we're giving you the platform to ask for what you need. So if you
need well, if you run a shelter alongside with crisis services, transit, and so on, you can imagine that it's your home and you're living with at least 20 people at the same time, okay? And all that comes with it. And some of them are pregnant, some of them are going to have babies, some of them are traumatized, some are bruised, and, and so on. Some need educational support, some need skills training, all of those things. Some need to be resettled, and some need to have psychological services and so on.
Yeah.
It's money. It's money. And we basically run this organization based on the donations that we get from our friends, from Ghanaians and from people abroad who are interested in what we do. We are not on any multilateral kind of donor funding. We basically get support from individuals and some corporates. A few churches now and then would come and support us. So we constantly need the support, finances, food, diapers. They're so expensive. Chaliwate, Gary, name it. We need
everything.
All that. And
everything.
Yes. Everything, yes. Just imagine you and your children and you taking them to hospital, to school, and all of those things. And we also need professionals who would support us. For example, more doctors who are willing not to take the doctor's fees for filling out medical forms, because sometimes we have to find the money to support our clients for that.
Yeah.
We also need lawyers who do pro bono work. So
yeah.
thank you, Serwaah, for what you're doing. I'm sure you're doing some pro bono work there.
I
And
do.
one of the places that we need lawyers for is the filing of protection orders under the Domestic Violence Act, which the courts unfortunately have made it such that the victim has to file an application. The law doesn't say so. So we need lawyers who would actually work in this sector and help victims, not charge them so much for filing for protection orders for them.
Okay.
And yes,
Right.
these are some of the things.
So the
We
Art
do
Foundation,
have a hotline, though. You should
Okay.
have it. Yes.
No, I don't. So can you just give us the number for that?
Okay. So this hotline is for both reporting abuse and giving us donations. It's 0243 777773.
Okay.
0243 777773.
Okay.
That's our hotline. You can report an abuse, suspected abuse or real abuse case, and you can also send us some donations through there, and they will never be wasted. Never.
Thank you
be
so
wasted.
much. Thank you so much for that. We'll continue to put the number out there so that we've had conversations. So we really understand, how important your shelter has been to facilitation process of women finally settling down and being independent. I was going to take Serwaah's last words, but Serwaah's going to come back next week. So we're not going to do that. But next week we'll have Serwaah, and then we'll have Dr. Evelyn, and then, like I said, we'll talk about the emotional side of abuse and really try to answer the question of why women stay, and maybe have a conversation so that women who are being abused will find that strength. I think we also need to explore the religious side of it. There's so many aspects of it. I mean, religion is a big
and
thing
safety
in Ghana.
planning and safety planning
And safety, yes.
for
And
those
yes,
who are not ready to
for those
step
who are not
out.
ready to leave, and how
Planning.
how to. I remember last week's show, the lady talked about having to gather herself for a couple of years before she could leave. So we're going to dedicate, there's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So we're going to do that for the next 2 weeks. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us. I can only give you like 10 seconds.
Oh yes, just 10
Okay.
seconds. You see, because we can't talk about today without leaving the victims with some form of encouragement. Of course, so I would say to every listener on the air now, what I'll tell them is, you can replace a partner, but your life, no, you cannot replace it. Choose yourself, choose peace, choose safety.
Yeah, choose yourself. Yeah, I totally get that. Thank you so much for
Welcome.
that, Serwaah. On a lighter note, Friday nights can be a little bit stressful when you're not sure about where to go, and you want a fun, energetic, vibrant, and safe space where you can unwind, let your hair down, and jam to some really great music. That's where I go when I want to relax. The best Jamaican restaurant with live reggae music. No two ways about that. So from 6:30 p.m. inside of Oak Plaza Hotel, Jam Rock offers amazing food, electric music, and unlimited fun with the one and only Clock Sack Band. Join, me and Mirabelle and the rest of the team every Friday at 6:30 p.m. for pure fun. It's Jam Rock. Jam Rock is inside of Oak Plaza near Palace, heading towards Spintex Road. So that's just on a lighter note. So let me say good evening to my new friend Thomas, who is listening. Thank you so much for always listening in. My name is Animwaa Anim Addo. A very, very big thank you to my guests and to my team. You guys are amazing. We'll continue this conversation next week. Stay safe out there.